Urgent action is needed from government and disability services to ensure the rights of children and adults with disabilities are upheld in line with the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And this is the key message that comes from this report. The report is called Aligning Disability Services with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It's the conclusion of the Joint Committee on Disability Matters after hearing from individuals with a lived experience of disability. Those caring for children with disabilities, those caring for children with autism, disabled persons representatives organisations and disability service providers. And the committee also heard from and probed the Minister of State with responsibility for disability, yourself, Minister Rabbitte, Department of Health, HSE officials, Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. And the report contains 38 priority recommendations across a range of areas. It includes right-based disability service provision, community-based health services and support, children's disability services and future innovation. Ireland signed the UN CRPD in 2007. We ratified it in 2018. We were the last EU member state to do so. The articles contained in the UN CRPD are binding on those state parties that have ratified the convention, meaning that Ireland has made a commitment to protect and promote the rights of disabled people. The reality is that this is not the case, and this is reflected, and what is reflected in the report today. The report finds that policies and legislation which would enable progress to a social and rights-based model of disability and care continue to be delayed. For instance, and possibly most important, is the government has not yet ratified the optional protocol of the UN CRPD. The optional protocol would enable individuals or groups of individuals or third parties to submit a complaint to the UN CRPD committee if they believed that their rights under the convention have been violated. And complaints can only be made against a state party that has ratified the optional protocol. So I think it has to be ratified without further delay. The report also calls on the government to review the Disability Act of 2005. Now, the Disability Act says that government departments and public bodies must work to improve the quality of life for people with disabilities. The Disability Act of 2005, when initially introduced, aimed to, and I quote, significantly advance the position of persons with disability in Irish society. However, the Centre for Disability Law and Policy note that, and again I quote, its subsequent application in the context of assessments of need and accessibility of public services has highlighted that it does not meet this aim because of the Act's focus on assessing needs rather than a right to be included in the community, and access to support undermines Ireland's commitment to disability rights under the CRPD. The government needs to review the Disability Act to ensure it's aligned with the UN CRPD. It is outdated. This could and should have been done in conjunction with the review of the Epson Act, which is currently happening. The two acts were designed to run in tandem, and I think it's a missed opportunity not to actually have looked at the two in conjunction, especially the part of the Act that deals with children. The report finds that in general the public are not aware of the issues that people and children with disabilities face in the health service. It points to the lack of a national disability awareness strategy to raise awareness of these issues, and stress that because of the inequity in service provision, parents and individuals with disabilities are having to impact their own privacy and dignity through engaging with the media to raise awareness and access services. And it's also occurring through parental action in a range of court cases taken against the HSE, again to access services. The report emphasises the need for a wider person-centred support plan for community inclusion to target the development of community living infrastructure, care and support, including respite and support for agencies to reconfigure their services, along with renewed and strengthened commitment to people with disabilities under the integration of Sláintecare. Otherwise, it states, the state will be locked in health services that are medicalised and segregated and impact people with disabilities' rights. An area I consider to be crucial is the delivery of children's disability services. This report informs us once again that the Progressing Disability Services model for delivering children's disability services is failing in this task. It points out that it is not achieving early intervention as a standard for children with complex disabilities, and it conveys the message that parents are distressed as they see the negative impact of the lack of intervention, compounded by the routine disruption caused by non-standard delivery of service across children's disability network teams, and stresses that the PDS model must be urgently developed to fully align with the UN CRPD. Lastly, the committee report also highlights the findings and recommendations of the Disability Capacity Review. The DCR reported on the scale and range of the capacity required to meet the requirements for disability support services between now and 2032. And this review indicates that the state's spending on disability services will have to increase by up to half over the next 10 years. So I suppose it's disappointing, therefore, to see the recent budget come nowhere near the funding that's required to start to deal with this. I suppose Jennifer Deputy Marina O'Connor referred to a meeting we had yesterday around a number of issues, and one of the issues that came up as well is about making our Parliament autism friendly, which is an ongoing issue. But we also need to make our Parliament accessible, and one of the things was getting a changing places toilet put into the Parliament. Another would be the AV room. If speakers come in and they're wheelchair users and they go to use the AV room, they can't get behind, or it's very difficult to get behind that desk. And I have raised that issue before, and the committee has raised it. And, you know, it's just to ensure, I know we've an old building and it's difficult, even this chamber would be very difficult to make fully accessible, but there are things that could be done. And the other thing was I attended the NDA conference, the end of it as well today, and there was a person there from Scotland. It was virtually and speaking about, in Britain they have a fund to support election candidates with a disability. And I've heard about this before, and it's just that it's only the extra cost, so you can't use it for your election material or anything like that. It's the extra costs associated with disability, and I think that would be brilliant here if something like that could be considered as well, because that was raised in the meeting yesterday. So before I finish, I'd just like to commend my colleagues on the committee and the staff who worked so diligently in putting this report together. Most importantly, I would like to praise the people with lived experience who engage with the committee, because without the unfiltered lived experience of the disabled community, this report would not carry the weight that it does. So I'd just like to urge the government to accept the report and, most importantly, to start to deal with the issues within it.